Adaptive Environmental Plan for the Conservation of Greater Sage Grouse Habitat in the Wyoming Basin. This presentation serves as an overview of the Environmental Management Plan, focusing on the conservation of the greater sage grouse and their habitat within the Wyoming Basin. An outline of the natural resource, its location, history, and ecological context is outlined herein. Overview. Adaptive Environmental Management for Conservation of the Sagebrush Habitat. Focus. Protection and restoration of greater sage grouse, and their breeding and nesting areas in the Wyoming Basin. Purpose. Create a plan that is both data-driven and flexible so that there is ecological resilience in the long term for sagebrush steppe ecosystems during pressures of climate and anthropogenic conditions. The focus here is adaptive management. This is a process that is based in science and is cyclical in nature, for the monitoring and evaluation of conservation actions, and adjusting them as necessary when new data becomes available. For Wyoming, the greater sage grouse is a keystone species, and as such, the well-being of the greater sage grouse reflects the health of sagebrush ecosystems overall. Geographic location, region, Wyoming Basin, Western United States. Coordinates, approximately 42 to 44 degrees north latitude, approximately 105 to 110 degrees west longitude. Main areas, Sweetwater, Carbon, Fremont, and Natrona counties. Biome, sagebrush steppe, dominated by big sagebrush, Artemisia tridentata. The Wyoming Basin is a vast region situated between the Bighorn Mountains and Black Hills to its east, the Wind River, Gros Ventre, and Teton Ranges to its northwest, the Owl Creek and Bridger Mountains to its south, and the Uinta Mountains to its southwest. The Wyoming Basin contains arid basins and rolling plains. It is a vital breeding area for greater sage grouse, and roughly 37% of the species' remaining habitat is in Wyoming. Each year, the basin is subject to conflicts of land usage for the exploration of oil and gas, the development of wind energy, and grazing grounds for livestock, and all of this impacts the population dynamics of the sage grouse. Historical background. Historical usage of land, pre-settlement. Native grass sagebrush supported pronghorn, mule deer, and elk. Post-settlement. Land used for livestock grazing, agriculture, and the extraction of energy, which led to the fragmentation of the habitat. Vegetation, Artemisia tridentata, Poa secunda, and Festuca idahensis. Wildlife, greater sage grouse, brewer sparrow, pygmy rabbit, and sage thrasher. Soils, aridicels and mollisols mostly. These are poor in nutrient content, alkaline, and prone to erosion when disturbed. In the past, the Wyoming Basin was able to support communities of intact sagebrush steppe. As time passed, though, the movement to use the land for grazing and energy extraction caused the composition of the soil and hydrology to be altered, and this allowed for invasive species, such as cheatgrass, Bromus tectrum, to take over. Such disturbances of the land cause fires to occur more frequently, and they degrade the structure of the habitat that is necessary for nesting, as well as for the rearing of broods. Understanding this type of destruction and degradation is essential for the creation of achievable goals for habitat restoration. Policy concerns. Federal and state policies. Endangered Species Act of 1973. Sage grouse are not on the list. However, they are being monitored as a species for candidacy. Bureau of Land Management. 2015. The BLM Sage Grouse Habitat Management Plans utilize both adaptive management and disturbance caps. Wyoming Executive Order 2019-3. This order created core area strategy that served to limit the disturbance of surfaces in critical habitats. Challenges. Creating a balance between the development of energy, livestock grazing, and habitat conservation in the face of ever-shifting climate conditions. There has been cooperation between both federal and state bodies to create policies in response to conservation of the greater sage grouse and their habitat. For example, the 2015 land use plans of the Bureau of Land Management displayed just how effective proactive species management could be, as it helped to keep the greater sage grouse off of the Endangered Species Act list. Of course, there has been a lot of uncertainty recently due to legal actions and the rollbacks of various policies, and this is precisely why an adaptive management framework that is based in scientific study and observations will allow for continual examination of habitat integrity despite any changes to established policies.